As if you are the only one who is going to school. You are the only one who is going to school. Now I think we were. Are we done with the chapter? Not yet, no? Okay, today I think the last portion we'll have to complete. So what are we supposed to study today? What was the last topic? Tell me. What was the last topic we did? Cattle diseases. Achha, cattle farming not finished. So let us start with that topic. We'll discuss few more concepts about that. No. Cattle farming I don't think so was over. A few more things to understand. So what is important there? Of cattle farming. Cattle farming is over. Complete all. Till diseases, vaccination, all I did. Yes. All we discussed. Achha. Then we'll talk about poultry farming. I'll give you some questions. So by that time, at that time when you solve, you can tell me if there's anything. I say this part of the chapter is quite easy. Poultry farming. For poultry farming, what are you supposed to remember? For this part of the chapter, poultry farming. So we start with this. Poultry farming. First is water, indigenous species we have to remember. Water, exotic species we have to remember. What is the need for poultry farming? What are the types? So these are the main segments of the chapter that we have to remember. So when I talk about, let us go one by one. Indigenous species. What was the meaning of indigenous species? The last class also we discussed. Indigenous species means species of our own country. Species of our own country. That is indigenous species. So now for poultry, what are indigenous species? Remember those names when we talk about indigenous species, the types, species names that you'll have to remember now. Indigenous species, you may underline, you may write down. When we are talking about indigenous species, which are some of the indigenous species, the most common indigenous species in our country, Asi, exotic. What was the meaning of the word exotic? Not of our country. And maybe the eggs or the seeds can be brought from other countries, and now maybe they are cultured in our country. Now maybe they are farmed in our country. Exotic. So when we talk about exotic, what are some of the species to understand? Leghorn, one of the most common. So when we are talking about asil is the brown colored poultry that all of you must have seen. It's not so the hen, the chicken that we understand. The brown color, the brown feathered one. So that is what we are talking about as the asil, the most common Indian variety. And now that we are talking about the exotic species, what is the meaning of exotic?
Not from our country.
Not from our country, and most common is Leghorn. Leghorn, how do they look like? They are majorly white feathered. Okay. Now we understand what is the need of poultry farming. Purpose you will be asked in your exam. Purpose kya? What is the purpose? Like say suppose go into that. Now when we are talking about cattle farming, what was the purpose we learned? What is the purpose of cattle farming? What is the purpose we learned? Cattle farming purpose, for two purposes cattle farming takes place. What are the two purposes? For money. That is what I taught you. For money.
And for
Number one, for milk and for labor. The cattle which are breed, the types of cattle which are bred for milk. What are these breeds called? The types of cattle reared for milk. What are these breeds of cattle called? What are these types of cattle called? Milch varieties. And the ones which are used in the farm for plowing, carrying load, what are they called? Drought varieties. Drought varieties. D-R-A-U-G-H-T. Drought varieties. Remember. So if I again take a comparison, that when we talk about cattle farming, even for cattle farming, we understand that there is a purpose. Why should cattle be farmed? For milk and for labor. Similarly, now that we talk about poultry farms, why? Poultry farming again for two purposes. What are the two purposes to understand? For eggs and for meat. for eggs. Now, these birds, do they have any other significance apart from food? No, nothing much. These different type of birds, whether you talk about the indigenous or the exotic, they are always rare, they are always bred only for food. So what are the two most important type of food to understand? The two most important type of food to understand. Meat. What are you supposed to understand? Obviously, we are talking about food. So the first is, you remember, it is meat, and the other is egg. So basically, we are talking about food only. Poultry basically farmed, reared only for food. Next is we talk about the types. What are the types? What are the two most common types of birds of this poultry? Now the two most common types are, what are the two most common types? The two most common types are what we talk about. There are one type of such birds, poultry, which are taken care separately, given different type of food so that they can lay the most nutritive eggs. Eggs is a type of a food almost about 80 to 85% of the population of the entire world depends on. So when we are talking about eggs, eggs are a extremely high nutritive type of a food. Now these eggs, can we understand that the common type of poultry, the indigenous poultry that I talk about, just by eating grains, not giving them a proper food, can they lay the most nutritive eggs? They will lay eggs, but not necessarily the eggs will be nutritive. For example, I talk about two children. I'm talking about children there, maybe in the same family, two brothers, two sisters. One has been given extremely high nutritive food, proper care is taken, hygiene, etc., etc. So this child is not falling sick also almost for the major part of the year. This child is very healthy also. This child is doing very good in academics also, non-academic activities also. Why? Because the bones and the brain and the muscles are all well developed. But talk about the other child. The other child is also running, walking, sleeping, everything. But not a great nutritive food is given. Not so much of proper care is taken. So will that child be as active and as intelligent and as healthy as the other child I talk about just now? Obviously not. Same like that. Now that I talk about the birds also, cattle also, the same concept. Now that I talk about the birds also, there are one category of birds, a different type of a feed given to them altogether. We'll learn. A different type of a feed given to them altogether, and the feed is given to them based on nutrients which are necessary for laying the best quality eggs. Also, these birds should be laying eggs within a short period of time. The birds should become more mature at an early age. On the other side, I talk about another set of birds are taken care of, reared, taken care of. I want to finish all today, all the 10 fingers. No, I thought you were going to finish all. Mommy told you keep सारे 10 fingers आप class में करके आना.
I was never something to order.
Then what are you doing? Hands down. That's what I am thinking. What are you trying to do? 10 के 10 खत्म करके जाना है. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना. कुछ है नहीं तो हाथ नीचे कर. So now that we are एक को बंद किया तो दूसरा शुरू हो जाता है. Now, when we are talking about, so one type of birds which are taken care of for laying eggs, what are these birds called? These birds are called layers. This type of poultry, this type of birds are called layers. On the other hand, when we are talking about another set of birds, वही poultry है, but another set of birds taken care so that their body mass becomes too much well developed. The muscles become too well developed. Because this set of birds are reared commercially, are marketed commercially for flesh. Now, simply when we talk about these type of birds, when we come across a concept of poultry as meat, the type of poultry which has got maximum amount of flesh on their body are more of commercial demand. At the same time, when I talk about a 3 kg poultry where the bones are heavy, flesh is less, and I talk about another 3 kg poultry, the bird level is even shorter, bird is short, bones are also short, but then the muscle is too much, the meat is too much. Out of these two birds, which one will have a lot of commercial demand? The second bird. We are not interested to have a bird as food. When we talk about the commercial market, nobody is interested to have a bird as food which has got long bones and less flesh. No. More flesh and short bones. That is more of commercial importance. So what are the other set of birds called now? Which are reared for meat. The other set of birds which are reared for meat, they are called broilers. So what are the two types now that you come across? Types I'm talking about. What are the two types? I said one type of birds which are reared for laying eggs, layers. And the other is the broilers. So again I say that when I talk about a broiler bird, 2 kgs of broiler bird means enough flesh. But I will talk about an asil, I will talk about a common indigenous bird which is reared only for eggs. 2 kg bird may hardly have any amount of flesh because the nutrient that is given to the layers are absolutely different than what is given to the broilers. What happened to you? Go. The way you are coming to class, you look so drowsy and so sick. Why back means why back? That side, back. This side also has a back, you know.
Sitting beside there because I'm feeling cold.
इधर आ जाओ. 1, 2, इधर आ जाओ. इधर आ. Fast, move your body, fast. This bench, or that. 3 you can choose. Out of these 3, any you can choose. That is up to you. Anyway. Why don't you prefer to come and sit in the front? या फिर इसी का हवा फैन का हवा सब मिलेगा. Now, when we are talking about the 2 types of birds, so what are the 2 types of birds? Now you know the names. What is the purpose? You already know the names. And now we come across what is the definition of the indigenous and the exotic breeds. Now, look at some points that we talk about. You may get a 2-mark question sometimes. What are some of the management practices? When we talk about management practices, something like, say suppose if the process of bird rearing is given to you and me, perhaps we don't know how to exactly take care of the bird. And maybe in very short time, the birds will start falling prey for certain type of diseases, and the type of the eggs and the flesh that we are looking for, we may not get. It's not so. So as I said, only giving nutritive food, is it enough? Only giving nutritive food, by giving nutritive food, can we keep the bird or the fish or the cattle healthy? No. Along with that, a lot of measures. No, these are precautionary measures has to be taken. Variety of safety measures has to be taken. So that is what we talk about first of all. See the first point there. For good production of poultry birds, good management practices. Management practices means to keep them disease free, to give them proper food, to maintain proper sanitation, all these. Number 2, this include maintenance of temperature, underline. These include maintenance of temperature and hygiene. So what is the first point of management practice? So that's the first point of management practice. Wherever we are going to keep the poultry, wherever we are going to keep the birds, the temperature should be adequate. I want to keep, I'm trying to rear almost about 50 birds. But the temperature in the shed, wherever I have kept the birds, is quite high. The temperature, if the room temperature, if the outside temperature today is something around 28, 29, and the temperature inside the shed is comparatively quite higher, and I'm keeping the birds quite congested, quite crowded, too many. The place is small and the birds are too many. Then at the same time also after a few more months, now when December approaches, when January approaches, the temperature falls. And I'm not trying to maintain the temperature of 28, 25 and the temperature falls to something around 10 degrees also, 12 degrees also, I'm not taking any measures to keep the birds warm. Will my birds remain healthy for a long time that way? Will they survive first of all? Forget about healthy. Will they survive first of all? No, they will not. So maintaining the temperature according to the body temperature of the bird, that's very important. So if you understand that the body temperature of the birds is something around 27, 28, then the surrounding temperature also should be something like that. No? At least 5 degrees up and down is okay. As for us also, when the temperature becomes 5 degrees up or down, much more or much lesser, then only we start feeling discomfort. So take the second point, that is what you have to remember, conditions in housing and poultry. Okay, so temperature and hygienic conditions. So this is what you have to mention. Next is the ration. Come to the fourth point. Underline the word ration. Can you see the word ration there? What is ration? Ration is a meal. A meal. Now for us also we take different meals all throughout the day. What are the different type of meals we take all throughout the day? What are the different type of meals we take all throughout the day? Right. Meals, उसका एक नाम है ना? Breakfast, lunch, dinner बोलते हैं ना? So exactly same like that. Whenever we are talking about the ration is a typical meal which is given to the birds. But we generally feel that birds are always feeding on grains. Yes, birds are of course feeding on grains, but along with grains, a whole lot of other nutritive food is given to them, so that the eggs that they lay is highly nutritive, the meat that they produce is rich in protein. So ration, underline. This fourth point is very, very important. The ration. What is ration? Daily food requirements for the bird. The daily food requirement of the bird, of the poultry, is known as ration. Take a note. I will give you answers to write. What is ration? Ration is the daily food requirement for the poultry. Daily food requirement for the poultry. And for the broilers, what type of ration should it be? It should be protein rich. What type of birds are broilers? Meat producing. So now, people who are consuming meat, people who consume chicken, that has been consumed with what objective? So that the feed is rich in protein. It's not so. When we are talking about when people have to consume chicken, what is the objective of consuming the chicken? Protein rich food it is. So exactly the same way, why eggs are consumed? That is also protein rich, but along with it, there are other different type of nutrients also in the egg. So now, broilers, protein rich with adequate amount of fat. Come to the next one. When we are talking about preventive measures, take that one. Preventive measures. What are some preventive measures to always take care? Proper cleaning, sanitation, and spraying of disinfectants. What are disinfectants here? What are they going to do? Whenever we are keeping the poultry, the spraying of disinfectants, fumigation is very much necessary, so that unwanted fleas, ticks, bacteria, etc., viruses cannot start developing, fungus cannot start developing. Second is appropriate vaccination. Now, birds also vaccination. Is it true? When we are talking about vaccination with human, we are always sure. Did you ever hear about vaccination of birds? Yes, that's true. Vaccination of cattle. So vaccination for birds and cattle, that is also true. Then why should the birds be given vaccine? So that variety of diseases they can overcome. Variety of diseases they will not get affected with. Overcome diseases. Take this question, that's very, very important. Very, very important. It is interesting to note that, I'll explain you after that, I'll give you a minute to read for yourself and tell me if it is understood. It is interesting to note that poultry is India's most efficient converter of low fiber food stuff into high nutritious animal protein food. What is the question we are talking about? Poultry is one type of an animal, one type of an organism which can convert low cost diet. Do we give very expensive foods to the poultry? No, nothing much. We give some grains, some crushed rice bran, some crushed bones, molasses mixed together. That is what is actually given. So molasses also not very expensive. Molasses means good, not very expensive. Crushed bone of the chicken bone only, not very expensive. Rice bran, the husk and ground, that is also not. So the feed that is given to the poultry is not very expensive and not very, very nutritive also. Not so nutritive also, but the meat and the egg that they produce is highly nutritive. So now the question says that poultry is one such type of an animal which can convert a low quality diet to a high quality product. The quality that the diet that is given to them is not very expensive, not very high quality diet. So that's why poultry farming almost everybody can do. It's not a very high cost farming. But the eggs that is produced is such good quality, high protein, good quality food, that is chicken also the same thing. Take this answer. I want you to read for 1 minute and see if it is understood. Take that question that comes as it is in your paper for 2 marks. 2 marks basically. You don't have your book also? REF, no? Arma. Don't have your book also? So nikalo na. No? You are feeling sick? You want to go?
After this period, I will.
Pick karo. Read. You also want to go? Read. Tell me if it is understood. Read the answer. Where's your book?
Actually, what only was because we were saying diversity in organisms.
Huh?
In the UT slide that was written diversity of organisms.
I don't think any of your school is teaching that. Teaching? Chalo. Understood no that part? Anything that is confusing there in the answer? The last line underline. The eggs contain 36% yolk, roughly around. Remember, roughly around 40% yolk and 60% proteins. Egg contain roughly yolk and protein. Those of you who eat egg, we can very well differentiate between the yolk part and the protein part. Yes or no? The protein part looks
White.
white and the yolk part is yellow. So when we talk about what is the proportion, we have to remember, underline that sentence. 60%, roughly 60% of proteins and 35%, 36% of yolk. Next is we talk about some differences between the layers and the broilers. What are some differences between the layers, broilers? Layers are the type already we discussed. Layers are the ones which are egg laying and the broilers are the type which are reared for meat. See the first difference? Layers are egg laying and the broilers are maintained for meat. Come to the next one. Layers start producing eggs at a very early age of 20 weeks and the broilers are raised up to 6 to 7 weeks in poultry farms and then sent over. Now, when we are talking about layers, in just about 20 weeks they start laying eggs, but broilers, when you talk about in a short period of time, they are ready with adequate amount of meat. So we are not actually comparing the time, we are only comparing that in how much time the eggs are ready and in how much time the flesh is ready. Okay, so that way. The third point that we talk about, they require enough space and adequate lighting. Now, lighting means what? The shed where you keep such type of birds should have to be well ventilated. That's the meaning of lighting here. And when we are talking about the broilers also more or less the same, but there is a low mortality rate. Now, the third point you may not write as a point of difference at all. You will write point of difference as number 1 and 2 only. So, take number 1 and 2 only to write as a difference. Number 3 is not at all a difference. Come to the fourth point. Layers, they feed with diet. What type of diet is given to them? Feed on diet which is rich in vitamins, minerals, and variety of macronutrients. Do you remember micronutrients? Do you remember what was the concept of micronutrient? What was the concept of micronutrient? Right now, याद तुमको आ क्या रहा है? Are you prepared to go for the 10th standard next session? Are you prepared mentally, physically, academically? Prepared or not? So that doesn't become a pain for your teachers and for your parents. अच्छा तुम उसको repair करने गए थे वहाँ पे. Now, when we are talking about layers, what type of feed, vitamins, minerals, and a lot of micronutrients. Micronutrients क्या है?
The nutrients required by organisms in small parts.
Small amounts. Give me one example of micronutrients. Manganese, zinc, copper, iron. These are all micronutrients. Macro, just opposite, large amount. Sodium, magnesium, like that. Okay, so remember this. Now we talk about broilers, the daily requirement. What type of nutrients are basically required for?
I mean the difference between layer and broilers. Can we also see that layer should be female and broiler can be both male and female?
Male and female, correct. That is not written here, but that is also true. When we are talking about the layers, obviously layers cannot be a male bird. So that of course always has to be remembered.
So chicken is both layer and boiler, right?
Both. Commercially that you talk about, the one that we get in the market, that is basically broilers. Because the local variety is not of commercial demand at all, because they have got very less amount of flesh in their body. The amount of flesh is very less. And the broilers, I think all of you, those of you are non-vegetarians, or even those of you are vegetarians, then also you must have seen those white birds. Those white birds, those are actually the farm birds, the broilers, no? So these birds are actually reared for flesh.
White birds means
What?
pigeon and birds.
White birds. Pigeon. You click photos of a pigeon and the broiler, and show me the next class when you meet.
Ma'am, you mean the white pigeon?
The broilers are much bigger than a pigeon. What are the
Names of
names of broilers? Names of broilers you don't even need. There are various different species of broilers. This is just a common category you have to study now. What are the different species? There are so many different type of species, and they're all related one to the other. They, क्या हाँ?
सब vegetarians को promote करते हैं.
Vegetarian को क्या non-vegetarian बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हो तुम?
नहीं, non-vegetarian to vegetarian.
Oh wow, good. Now, when we are talking about fish production, now let us talk about fish production. The first definition that we are going to talk about is pisciculture. That's a very important definition for 1 mark. Define pisciculture. What is pisciculture? Arey baap re. This stuff is now getting to form. क्या खा के आए थे घर से? कुछ नहीं? Now, when we are talking about, I'll give you questions on this part after some time. Write down the first definition, pisciculture. Let us start the next part. Pisciculture. What is the definition? That's a very, very important definition. Pisciculture. Definition of pisciculture. Write down the rearing, breeding. The rearing, breeding, and caring of fishes and other aquatic organisms. Is known as pisciculture.
aquatic organisms.
And other aquatic organisms is known as pisciculture. So remember, pisciculture is not only the process of rearing, caring of fishes. It can be the rearing, caring of other different type of aquatic organisms also. We may talk about the crabs and the lobsters. That is also pisciculture. We may talk about the caring, rearing of the mussels and the lobsters. That is also pisciculture. Prawns, that is also pisciculture. And a variety of there.
Eating.
Huh? Do you think I have got so much of nonsense time to entertain all your stupid behaviors. Do you think we can afford that much of time? If you can sit serious and very sincere in the classroom, very good. Otherwise, you may go out and have some fresh air. I think before you all enter into the 10th standard, that is high time that you have to learn all these mannerisms of the classroom. Now, when we are talking about now enough of time that we consider you as new, we consider you as freshers to such type of an organization. You are no more freshers at all. हो गया अभी almost एक साल हो रहा है ना? हाँ? So now you should get into the frame how I should behave in a classroom. See, some children are already well trained right from the first day, I should say. And now I think almost I'm at the fag end of this session. Abhi tak bhi, in some of you I have not seen any improvement. Sorry to say that. Now, when we are talking about pisciculture, remember the definition. What is the definition I told you? Scientific method. Tell me the definition what I told you. Rearing, breeding and caring of fishes and other aquatic organisms scientifically. And what should be there in your answer? Scientifically is known as pisciculture. Scientifically is known as pisciculture. Scientifically is known as pisciculture. Okay. Now, in this part of the chapter, there are many other definitions also that you're going to come across, comparisons also that you're going to come across. Now, when we talk about pisciculture, now let us try coming across some few more concepts. Now, look at the fourth point there. When we talk about the fourth point, there are pisciculture can be divided into two major types of farming. What are the two major types of farming under the concept of pisciculture? One is we talk about capture farming, and the other we talk about as culture farming. Two types of farming. What are these? I told you, capture and culture farming. So pisciculture, now we understand any type of organism which is present in the sea and the ocean, lake and the pond and the river, all would come under the concept of pisciculture. So I will start talking about a small fish in the river, a small fish in the lake and the pond, the prawns, the big the lobsters and the crabs, the mussels, and other different type of fishes. But of economic importance they have to be, either for food or for other different type of products. Now, can you tell me? We did not talk about that part. What is the need for pisciculture? Can you tell me? Fishes and other aquatic organisms को क्यों rear किया जाना चाहिए? क्यों? What is
for eating purpose like coastal areas.
एक तो food है, and what is the other? What can be the other? There are so many. At least 2 or 3 you should know. What can be the other? एक तो food है, very common. And what is the other?
It's oil.
Oil, skin, fish oil. So when we talk about the fish oil, and there are variety of aquatic organisms also which produces products of great economic importance. When I talk about examples like the oysters and all, the various different type of fishes which produce the cod liver oils, the salmon, the cod liver oil. So there are various different type of products also that we obtain from the fishes. So now we talk about the two types of fish farming. Let us try understanding the when we are talking about the differences. Write one question there. Types of fish farming. Mention the two types of fish farming and also state their difference. Mention the two. Good night. Yes, come here to sleep. Mention the two types of fish farming, comma, also state their difference. Mention the types of two types of fish farming. Mention the two types of fish farming, also state their difference. That's right. Where you go? First line, you go. The two types of fish farming are this, right on this. Right on front, the two types of fish farming.
This.
The two types of fish farming are. The two types of fish farming are. And culture farming. capture farming and culture farming. Now, right at the first head, capture farming. Capture farming. Now, what is capture farming? You try to understand, then you will write it in your own words. I'm not going to dictate the answer. It's high time by the end of 9th standard, going to 10, you should know how to write answers on your own. Now, huh? Yeah, excellent. Why you missed out one step in between. We catch it, then we cook it, and then we eat.
That's another.
Excellent answer. Now, when we are talking about capture farming, what is capture? You are talking about adding spices there. Now, capture farming. When we are talking about capture farming क्या है? I talk about the sea or the ocean or the river. When we talk about the breeder is selecting a small area. Now, say suppose I talk about the sea here near our city. There are so many fish breeders who would select small regions in the sea. And they would every day go take their boat or water vehicle, whatever, and they would go to that part of the sea and do the process of farming there. Put the seeds, food, grow the fishes, and once the fishes are grown, take them out and then sell them in the market. So this is the entire process, the cycle going on. These breeders, are they taking out the fishes and growing them in a separate area? No. They have selected small regions in the sea or the ocean or the river or the lake or the pond. So the entire sea or the ocean or the lake or the pond or the river can be divided into various zones like this, where the fish breeders or the fish farmers, they are constantly keeping a track of the type of fishes growing in their small area, giving food, taking fishes, buying them, selling them, etc. So if this is what we are doing, where are we disturbing the fishes from their natural habitat? We are growing them in their own natural habitat. But only that care has to be taken, that additional food has to be given to them. If the fishes are dying out, take them out so that that particular region does not become dirty. So such kind of precautionary measures to take. So when the fishes are being reared and cared in their own natural habitat, that is what is called capture farming. Clear? So capture farming, what are you supposed to write? When the process of rearing, wait, I'm not dictating, you will write on your own. When the process of rearing and breeding of fishes are done in their own natural habitat, such as the river, ocean, sea, etc., that is called capture farming. Then what is? If it is a tank, then that becomes culture. So if some artificial ponds are made, if some tanks are made, if some artificial tanks and ponds are made and then the culturing, then the breeding done, then that is what is called culture farming. That is what is called culture farming.
You said in a particular area, how do they like do that?
In a water body, in the first one, capture farming.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what is done. When you talk about even the sea around, if you happen to visit the sea in the morning or the evening hours, you'll always come across this fishermen. They may not have a typical boundary drawn, but they can identify the zone of the water body. These they will go by the way of the boat, and then they will spray their net only in their area. They cannot spray the net in somebody else's area, because this is the area that they take care of. So I cannot take the net and put the net in somebody else's area and capture the fishes and bring and sell it. No, that is not allowed. That is illegal. I cannot do that. So I have to select my own area, grow my fishes there, and put the net in my own area and capture that. So if that is done, that is what is capture. So what I told you now. What is capture farming? The process of breeding and caring of fishes in their own natural habitats. For example, lake, sea, pond, right? That is what is capture. The process of growing fishes, growing and breeding fishes in artificially made ponds and tanks. That is called Culture farming. Nico. Now write on your own. Write in two different paragraphs. Write in two different paragraphs. I'll ask you. Some of you have it. I heard. I'll give up to some time. It's two continuous periods, no? Then I'll get a little bit more exhausted after the time. I'll give after some time. ये complete करो. फटाफट. What is happening? You are not writing. You are not even marking in the book. Then why are you in the classroom? Arman? So you may go. You go. Go and talk to ma'am.
At the first lecture.
Are you done? Capture farming, culture farming. So what are the two differences? All of you should remember the basic differences. Capture farming. See the first one to write. Nico, I'll be clear. Remember what I told you. Capture farming, the process of breeding and caring of fishes in their own natural habitats, such as river, ocean, sea, etc., is known as capture farming. Then what is culture? Process of breeding and caring fishes in?
Example क्या बोला fishes और? Example क्या बोला?
Oceans.
It's such as in river, lake, sea, ocean.
etc.
Natural habitats. Natural habitat में जो हो रहा है उसको बोलेंगे capture. Then what is culture? Process of breeding and caring fishes in artificially made tanks and ponds. In artificially made tanks and ponds. Now, look into your volume. Let us talk about some fish varieties. What are some of the, at least some of the examples you are supposed to know? What are some fish varieties? Let us look into some fish varieties. Underline some examples there. The first fish variety that we talk about, some common fish varieties, and these are the common fish varieties that we are talking about, is majorly in these coastal areas itself. The coastal belt of our country generally has a whole lot of such type of fishes in production. What are some of the common ones? Some of these names you may be acquainted with also. We talk about the pomfret, mackerels, tuna, sardines, and bombay duck. Are you acquainted with any of such names? Pomfret is a very common fish this side also, you know. Pomfret, even bombay duck is also a very common fish this side. Soft, slender fish. And other than also when I talk about the mackerels and the tuna, these are also fishes, but these are basically, this basically comes in the tin fishes. This basically comes in the
Culture farming.
You are still there. Thank God you did not talk about labor and stuff.
Reading it, ponds and
I'll talk to you after the class. Bolo, did you understand? What did you understand?
Culture farming means breeding and taking care of the fishes and or the aquatic animals in the artificial made lakes, ponds.
Excellent. Thanks will लिख सकते हैं. लिखो फटाफट लिखो.
Thanks to लिखो.
Thanks will लिखो. 10th का syllabus खत्म होते होते February होगा. Take a note. Next year to 23 होगा ना? हाँ. 23 February के पहले syllabus खत्म नहीं होगा. At this pace. लिखो. You still look at your face. Are you done? हो गया? Now.
मैंने बताया
He did not understand my explanation. He understood your explanation.
दिखाई नहीं उसने culture farming.
When this comes in the exam and if you keep the space blank, I'm going to twist your bones.
And how would you know that he has kept the place?
We can see your papers.
School paper.
You keep it.
Your school performance will get to know when you come for the next year. If you come for the next year. Now, next is when we talk about this, I asked you underline these examples. What are some common examples you are going to underline? Pomfret. These are the most common ones. Sardine, tuna, bombida. These are some common examples. Can you give apart from this any one example? Rubbers. Very good. Rubbers and
Sharks.
sharks are not culturable fishes.
Fish paplet.
Prawns.
That paplet you talk about, no, that's the language of the fishermen. It's actually pomfret.
Paplet.
Prawns.
Prawns, correct. Mussels,
Crabs.
prawns, crabs. So these are the
Octopus.
examples.
Lobster.
We don't go to his house to eat octopus.
Lobster.
Lobsters, correct. Lobsters. Now come to the concept of economic importance. Economic importance. Now, just now we were talking about why should fishes and other aquatic organisms be reared? What is the need? Economic importance. Number one, always for food. Let us understand what are some of the most important economic importance. See there, fishes, finned fishes. What is the meaning of finned fishes? When we are talking about fins, having paired fins is also a basic characteristic of fishes by which we can identify them. All fishes don't have the same arrangement of fins. What are fins for? Fins are meant for moving the fish in the water. No fins. Underline this statement. Take this point. Take this point. Important for you. When we talk about the economic importance, finned fishes such as the mullets, vetki, the pearl spots are with different type of names. You have to underline the examples. And then the pearl spots, the shellfishes. Shellfishes are a category. Underline shellfishes. So what are some examples of shellfishes? I will give you questions. Give 2 examples of shellfishes. What is the meaning of shellfish? How many of you have seen a prawn or a lobster? So did you ever notice that the prawn has got a colorless plastic shell structure which is removed and then the softer structure is eaten, no?
Yeah.
So similarly, there are other type of bigger organisms, also aquatic organisms, which has a harder shell structure. So that's the reason the lobsters and the prawns, they are known as what? Shelled fishes. They are known as
Crabs also.
crabs have got a more harder shell. So that's a different, they're more hard. So when we are talking about the shellfishes, give 2 examples of shellfishes. You know now. Can I write sardines as an example of shellfishes? No. Sardines and tuna and mackerels, they don't have shells. Then which type of organisms have got shells? The prawns, the lobsters, mussels. So these examples you'll have to write. Underline. Underline. Oysters have got, these are called clams. They generally have got, shells are more harder. Not like the prawns, but more hard.
Tortoise.
Tortoise is not a fish. Now, when we are talking about, underline, oysters. You go and talk, you go and have fresh air, you go and have water, anything you can. You're free. Because as it is, you're not concentrating, as it is, you're not studying, so no point staying in the classroom. Underline oysters. Oysters are of great economic importance because they produce a secretion from their mouth. These oysters, which are plant structures, they generally have got 2 shell structures and inside the soft animal, something like a snake. And this soft animal starts releasing certain secretory substance, some sticky substance, which when comes in contact with the air becomes harder. That is what we call it as pearl. The pearl oysters. So that is their own body secretions. It is their own body secretion which becomes harder progressively, and that is what is known as the pearl. That's why we call this animal as pearl oysters. Underline the word oysters. So oysters are basically cultivated for the pearl. Okay. Underline the word mariculture. Now we talk. What happened? Huh? Did you talk to me just now? You sit here. Now, mariculture. Don't disturb. You sit here. I will talk to her. Then you will do. Now, why did you come to the class? I don't understand.
Now, I thought.
Mariculture. What is the definition of this word? Mariculture. What is mariculture? Mariculture means the entire scientific process of the.
This is just message me.
That.
But I need to place.
You take your own sweet time to read all those messages. Don't talk about any nonsense things right now. Before I start blasting on you, behave like a student. Huh? Now, when we talk about mariculture, what is the definition? Mariculture. What is the meaning of mariculture? the scientific process of breeding and caring of fishes only in the sea and the ocean, marine organisms. What is the meaning of marine? Organisms of the sea and the ocean. Then what is the other contrast? Freshwater organisms. So I may talk about, say suppose I may talk about the sharks, I may talk about these oysters. Do we find these oysters in the lake and the river? No. We find the oysters where in the sea. So the oysters become a marine organism, the organisms which are found in the sea and the ocean, marine. But at the same time, I will talk about organisms like those petki and the katla. These are also fishes, but these are not found in the sea and the ocean, but they are found in the river. Now, these category of fishes would be termed as freshwater fishes. So, the moment I talk about the marine, aquatic organisms, there can be two types. What are the two types? The ones which are found in the river and the lake and the pond and the estuary, these are all freshwater. Why? Because these waters have got less amount of salt in them, no? They are sweet waters. And what about the other side, the sea and the ocean? The water is salty. So such type of organisms are called saltwater organisms or marine organisms. Let us go to the definition. Mariculture. What is mariculture? Right now, the scientific method of rearing and breeding. Likho. The scientific method of rearing and breeding.
Mariculture. What's the culture?
Mariculture. M-A-R-I. Mariculture. What is the definition? Mariculture right now, the scientific method of rearing and breeding. The scientific method of rearing and breeding of R-E-A-R-I-N-G, rearing and breeding of fishes and other organisms.
Scientific culture.
Scientific method of breeding and rearing of fishes and other aquatic organisms in the sea and the ocean.
Scientific method of
Rearing and breeding of fishes and other organisms in the sea and the ocean is known as or is termed as mariculture.
And other aquatic
You will
animals.
see from your friend there. Is known as mariculture. Now, let us complete with inland fisheries. Look at that paragraph. Inland fisheries. What are inland again? Name some inland water bodies.
तो लैंड के अंदर है वहाँ वो सब
Inland water bodies. When I talk about inland water, what are the 2 or 3 examples of inland water body? Pond, lake,
River.
streams, river. These are inland water bodies. Small water bodies. Yes, but at the same time, some rivers are too huge also. But we are talking about small water bodies are known as inland water bodies. Small water bodies known as inland water bodies.
If you transferring the fishes from like a tank to like a bigger body, like a lake or a pond, so will that still be culture or like change like capture?
Ma'am, it
That will
will
become
first be
culture.
culture and then turn to.
No,
But then you're turning to like a big water body, right?
you are turning it into a big water body, but as long as that big water body is not is a natural water there. As long as that big water body is a natural water body and you have not made it, it's all culture. Let it be a bigger pond, not a problem. But if it's a natural pond, a natural lake, then as it is, it becomes a capture pond. I have in a small tank, now I shifted to a bigger tank. It was in a small pond, I shifted to a big lake. Still it is culture. But I brought it from a river and I was doing it here for 2 years. Now I straight away do it in the river. Now culture to capture. Next definition we do is aquaculture. Take the definition now, aquaculture. What is aquaculture? What is aquaculture? This boy, Arman, come here, come on.
Give me 5 photos.
प्रसाद खाने सबसे
Yes.
बकवास
क्या vegetable बोल गया? Vegetable बोल गया?
अभी तो रहते हैं
They started giving. I gave you a break. I give you.
I thought it was a break
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay, I
Finish
thought it
with
was
this, and after that
Oh,
I'll.
bye.
कितना
Ah, keep that inside.
I kept it
खत्म ही हो गया
सब लोगों ने खा ली
इतना जल्दी खा भी लिया तुम लोग.
कब से खा रहा है वो आधे घंटे से
ऐसे मारो
इसलिए तो मास्क पहन के आता है.
हाँ वही तो
स्कूल में भी मास्क पहन के आते हैं मैम
स्कूल में भी खाता है.
स्कूल में लोग सिखा देते हैं
असेंबली के बीच
स्कूल में सोता है
अरे असेंबली में आते हैं हाँ तो
कभी आता है
Never mind, you enjoy your days now, so that you don't have to try in the 10th standard. I'm repeatedly asking you, are you prepared for the 10th standard?
क्या बोला उसको
Happy birthday.
अरे
Now, next is, we talk about aquaculture. देखो, what is aquaculture? All these definitions are a bit confusing. Mariculture, what was it?
मैम साइंटिफिक
मुझे लगा ही नहीं बिल्कुल कि this is a 9th standard classroom. मुझे लग रहा था कि by chance I have entered into a 2nd standard classroom. Mariculture का concept ये याद रखो. The moment you talk about mariculture, you are talking about rearing in the sea and the ocean. Marine से mariculture. तो aquaculture क्या होना चाहिए? Start walking fast. Pick your bag and go. Walk fast. What's wrong with you? Why are you walking like this? Extremely deficient. No nutrients in his body as it.
कल कुछ खाया नहीं उसने
उपवास रखा था
हाँ बस
You?
उसके लिए खा लिया.
ऐसे ही मन भी था उसका खाया नहीं
ऐसे ही. तो तुमको बड़ा सिंपैथी था. तो तुम्हें क्या
मैम इसके लिए रखा था
इसके लिए. Wow, it's okay.
ओए ओए ओए
ये अच्छे से खाना भी मिलता है.
Now, day. Wow. If given a day, the entire day, you can speak nonsense. Now, when we are talking about aquaculture, the process of breeding and rearing, process of breeding and rearing fishes, process of breeding and rearing fishes of economic importance. Fast likho, make a habit of listening correct and writing together. Economic importance. Process of breeding and rearing fishes of economic importance. Of economic importance. Economic importance
Rearing fishes
in their natural habitat.
मैम इकोनॉमिक
Importance in their natural habitat, which includes both marine and freshwater organisms. Which includes both marine and freshwater organisms is known as aquaculture. Abhi suno, I talk about mariculture, where I said it is only restricted to sea and ocean. So aquaculture, how is it different? The process of breeding, where you may talk about a lake pond also, where you may talk about a sea ocean also. So ये जो cumulative process of farming होगा, that is what is known as aquaculture. Take a break, drink some fresh air, and after 10 minutes again we meet.
नहीं है
बोल रहे हो ना फिर.
पैसा दे दे
हाँ भाई
ठंडा पानी पियो बोले. वो मेरे पैसे हैं.
सुरेश जी ये फेंक देना डस्टबिन में
पूरे डस्टबिन. क्यों? हम मैन ऑफ कल्चर. वो पैसे वो सिर्फ
हाँ रुको
वही
बच्चा जी
Yeah, you are not a good very bad.
हो गया भैया पीछे आधे घंटे में रॉय खाया जा रहा है